This week, Jonny Robot heads to the Gold Coast to check out the new maze at Warner Bros. Movie World based on The Evil Within. Jimmy the Geek checks out Alien Isolation with the developers from Creative Assembly, and I chat to the team at Monolith Productions about new Middle-earth adventure, Shadow of Mordor. This is Player Attack. Hi, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this week gamers in Australia and New Zealand have picked their collective jaws up off the floor as we were told we would be the first Western territory to get our hands on the new Nintendo 3DS and 3DS XL. The handhelds are launching in Japan later this month and are headed to Australia and New Zealand on November 21. You'll be able to pick up the new 3DS in all white, while the new 3DS XL offers a choice of metallic black or metallic blue. If those colours don't thrill you, Nintendo is also offering 20 different interchangeable faceplates at launch, like these, demonstrated by J-pop artist Kiari Pamu in the new Japanese ad campaign. If you're in North America, Europe or the rest of the world, sit tight, you will get your new Nintendo devices sometime in 2015. Meanwhile, PC gaming saw a pretty major overhaul as Valve gave digital distribution service Steam a serious makeover. Not only is the website now largely blue rather than black, but the storefront is now personalised to make sure you don't miss out on the games you would be most interested in. Who knows, your new favourite game could be tucked away in the Steam library and you just don't know about it because it's not being made by a big company. If you want to see what all the fuss is about, head to steampowered.com and you will find a smarter homepage packed with recommendations based on games you've played before, games your friends like, and other bits and pieces the computer thinks you could benefit from. But that's not the only change that Valve has made to Steam. The long-promised Steam Music Player is now available after a beta test that started in February. It's a way of integrating your music library into your Steam client, which means you can play music while you play games, all within the same program. Remember, there are a whole bunch of soundtracks currently available on Steam, and if you've already bought the game, chances are the music is just sitting there waiting for you to grab it as free DLC. Last week, Blizzard made headlines as we were told the studio would be deleting abandoned World of Warcraft accounts. Now the developer is here again with some sad news. After more than 7 years in development, Blizzard has confirmed that super secret MMO project Titan has been axed. This isn't even a case of something being put on hiatus or indefinitely postponed. Instead, company CEO Mike Morhaime has said that Blizzard simply wasn't able to find the fun in the game. Last year, the 100-strong team working on the game was slashed to just 30 people, who spent their days carefully trying to figure out if Titan was worth saving. In the end, though, the painful decision was made and the game was scrapped at an estimated cost of around $50 million. Sticking with bad stuff, Sony has announced that its PlayStation 3 life simulator PlayStation Home will close for good in March next year, with no signs of a PS4 replacement. Since the hub launched in December 2008, tens of millions of gamers have logged into the community, but the publisher is now blaming a shifting landscape for the imminent closure. No new content for the game will be released from November until a series of free content is released sometime closer to the shutdown on March 31, 2015. In happier news, Ubisoft has announced a couple of things to make the musically inclined gamer a little bit happier. First up, Rocksmith 2014 edition will be hitting Xbox One and PlayStation 4 in November, so you can learn how to play guitar or bass with a brand new high-def graphics and a little remote play support. As well as that, Just Dance Now has hit smartphones this week, so you can get your boogie on anywhere with no need to be tethered to your console. Just download the app on your iOS or Android device, sync up with the game, and you're good to go. Each day there will be 5 songs available to dance to. These songs will be rotated in and out and can be played free of charge. If you want more than 5 songs, or if you want to dance to something else, there are a number of options available, from a single day pass all the way up to a full year subscription. The next console release, Just Dance 2015, hits motion sensing consoles later this month. PAX Australia is also headed our way at the end of this month, and Player Attack will be there. Jimmy the Geek and I are on a few panels, and the rest of the team will be hanging around the place, playing games, looking at cosplayers, and generally having a good time. That said, we understand if we're not the highlight of your weekend. Australian comedy musical group Tripod is making a special appearance at the event, teaming up with the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra and Grammy-nominated composer Austin Wintory from Journey for a sneaky peek of their 2015 comedy festival show. This gaming life is a love letter to video games, packed with references to World of Warcraft, Skyrim, and a number of titles that boast massive guns. PAX Australia hits the Melbourne Convention and Exhibition Centre from October 31st to November 2nd. Some tickets might still be available, but be warned, they are selling fast. For more information on any of these stories, or to keep up to date with the latest gaming news, head to playerattack.com. But for now, stick around, got plenty more still to come.
If you're anything like me, you love a good scare. My personal fix comes from watching the darkest of cinema and breaking the most twisted of games, because I know whatever hellish nightmare I'm made to endure, it's separate from my happy place by an impenetrable screen. But the folks over at Queensland Warner Brothers Movie World have decided to smash that divide by teaming with Bethesda and bringing the horrific world of The Evil Within to life as one of their main attractions at this year's Fright Night event. So quick recap, The Evil Within looks to be a true return to form for classic survival horror. Spearheaded by creative director Shinji Mikami, the dude who essentially wrote the book on the genre with titles like Resident Evil and its Jurassic counterpart Dino Crisis, The Evil Within looks to reinvigorate the horror franchise. This is a big first for Movie World, as this is the first video game IP they have ever used in any of their attractions. We were lucky enough to be invited up to Movie World for a special preview of what will be in store when the event launches in October. After braving the blood-soaked halls of the main attraction, we had a chance to catch up with the head maze designer Chris Grew and ask him all about Fright Nights, the mazes, and most importantly, The Evil Within.
Well, this is our 6th Fright Nights event. This is the biggest one that we've ever done. Each year the event's growing and growing. These are the biggest and most intricate mazes we've ever built for a Fright Nights event. The public's demanding more and we just keep trying to deliver.
Well, you've blessed our little community of gamers with The Evil Within, Bethesda's new upcoming Fright Fest. How about did you go about approaching Bethesda to even do that?
Well, I've been gaming for like 20 years now, and I've been a big fan of Bethesda for a long time, ever since they took over the license for Fallout. So when I was researching what IP I can use this year for mazes, and I found that The Evil Within is launching in October, it was like perfect fit. And then when I saw it was a Bethesda game, you know, I was already a massive fan of Bethesda. Pulled a few strings to get the contact details, and then just everything fell into place.
Lucky it did, because it is awesome. Here's the thing though, considering the game is pretty gory, how did you pick and choose what you could use and what you couldn't use?
Oh, that was easy. We just picked the really gory things and we used them.
What was your favorite part of it? What was the bit that you were like, I've played that in the game, I've seen it, I need to show the public in the most gruesome way possible?
Oh, okay, so I think for me the standout from what I played in the first couple of chapters was Laura, the reborn spider, with her 4 arms and her hair hanging down over her face, and that was just like a really wicked picture, and I really wanted to recreate that as best I could in here, and I hope that you saw it, and I hope you saw it inside the maze, and she screamed at you, and you know, I really think we've nailed that one. Laura, the reborn spider, man, that's awesome.
The Fright Night event will be running at Warner Brothers Movie World on the Gold Coast on selected nights throughout October, with tickets starting at $29 and available at frightnights.com.au. Bethesda's The Evil Within will be launching on October 16th for the PlayStation 3, the PlayStation 4, the Xbox 360, the Xbox One, and Windows PC.
Jimmy the Geek here with Gary Napper, head designer of the wonderful Alien Isolation. Where has this game been all my life? Where has this game come from?
The game's been in development for over 3 years, so it's been behind the scenes boiling away and just getting it just right. It's been amazing just to see everyone's reactions today, because we're finally able to just sit down and say, here, take a pad, play it, and it's just been convincing people one after the other all day that actually we've made something special, so it's been an amazing 3 days.
Can you give us a little bit of plot background? What's going on? Why are we on this spaceship?
So the plot centres around Amanda Ripley, who's the daughter of Ellen Ripley from the original films. The game takes place 15 years after the events in the Nostromo in the first film, and she's looking for any information she can find about the disappearance of her mother. It leads her to this station in the kind of deep space, and when she gets there to recover the black box, which is the flight recorder from the Nostromo, she finds herself confronted by an alien. And then very quickly she's isolated on her own and she has to figure out how to get out.
We've had a little play around with it. It looks stunning. It looks just like it came out of the original Alien movie by Ridley Scott. Was that a conscious decision? How did that work?
Well, that's the reason this game came into existence, because the original team and no one had ever made a game that felt like it was just you versus the alien, and it felt like the original film, the original 1979 Ridley Scott classic. So the first pitch was just like, yeah, well, what if we were to make that? Would that experience work? So putting that together with like an alien that can learn and adapt inside an environment that felt like the original set, put it all together. We worked very closely with 20th Century Fox to get all the much details and the plans and the kind of set drawings and stuff, so we could really recreate the original film. And they actually sent us a hard disk with 3 terabytes worth of data. So that helped the artists like deconstruct the entire film down to its core components and then build it up again in their own vision.
What sort of tricks and techniques did you use to get that wonderful effects that you've been getting throughout the game, like the video scrolling and things like that?
The video scrolling and VHS distortion is exactly that. Our UI team have basically taken UI elements from the game and parts, and they've recorded it onto old VHS tapes. And then they've played it back through really bad, scratchy quality tapes and used magnets and jangled the wires while filming the screen to get the actual VHS distortion, and then captured that and then fed it back into the game. So the distortion you're seeing is actual VHS distortion.
So last year, there was an Alien title that wasn't so well received.
I'm not aware of any yet. I know what you're talking about.
How do you feel? Has anyone come up and spoken to you about that and how you're sort of removing that? Or
That's probably been one of the most asked questions. I think the reason is people were kind of very wary about Alien games. And the best thing for us is, when that Alien Clone Marines was in development, our biggest concern as a team was that it would do something that we were doing, or it would be too close to the game we were making. And actually it turns out the game was all about action and machine guns, and it was very, very separate to what we're making. So to answer the question, how are we different, we just kind of give people the control pad and say, you know what, play for 5 minutes, you'll get it.
we also understand that it's got Oculus support.
Yes, today we've got a prototype on show on the floor, which is a kind of we work with the Oculus Rift guys to just create this experience that people could check out, and we love playing with new technology, so it was a case of, okay, what would our game feel like in that? So we produced a version of this demo for Oculus Rift for people to try out, and it's been amazing. So many people have come over and said, this is the most terrifying thing I've ever done. It's the most surreal experience, and it's been superb.
You've done a wonderful job of creating atmosphere around the game. How sick are you of watching Alien now?
You know what? Every time we watch it, we see something new, and we look at it and we go, did we use that bit? Maybe we could use that. And we've actually got it on loop in the studio on some of the screens. I mean, I've got it on my iPad, I've got a version on my phone, we've got the Blu-rays and DVDs and everything, and it's one of those things that, it's kind of, it almost like never grows old for us, because we're so, we love the material so much, and we're so closely connected to that film that even when we watch it, we're like, oh, that's brilliant, that bit's amazing. And I think a testament to the visuals of the art team is one day one of our programmers was looking at the screen, and there was a couple of panning shots from the beginning, and he said, is that the film or our game? And I was like, if someone can get that confused, who's been working on it for 2 years, then I think we're on the right track.
It was here, on the slopes of Mount Doom, that the Dark Lord Sauron was defeated by a last alliance of men and elves. It is here that for 2,500 years the Rangers of Gondor stood watch, guarding against a nameless threat they had all but forgotten. And while the strength of Gondor faded, the power and malice of Sauron grew in darkness.
We are talking about Shadow of Mordor, which takes us back again to Middle-earth.
So, and it takes us back to a really interesting period in Middle-earth. It's after the end of The Hobbit. Sauron's been defeated by the White Council. He's been driven out, and he's returned to Mordor 60 years before Lord of the Rings. So that's the sort of starting point of our game. And Sauron's return, of course, changes everything. So Gondor has been guarding the gates of Mordor for 2,000 years since Sauron was defeated in the Battle of the Last Alliance. And since that time, Gondor's been sort of guarding the Black Gates, but when Sauron returns, he slaughters everybody who's there, including your character, including Talion.
Hang on, you're dead?
You start dead, but Sauron's return also awakens another very, very powerful spirit that has some really important ties and some real history with Sauron, who reawakens, resurrects Talion, and uses him effectively as a vehicle or a vessel, and together the two of you are going to pursue the Dark Lord behind enemy lines into Mordor.
That all sounds super interesting. It's out on the show floor. Everyone's crazy about this and talking about it. So what sort of feedback have you been getting?
It's been amazing because there's I guess a few things that we're doing that we're trying to do that are new and that are different. In particular, we're trying to do something new with the enemies in the game. We don't have any generic cannon fodder. We're not crafting the bosses for this game. Every player is creating their own bosses through the stories that they create and their interactions with their enemies, the Nemesis system. And we've talked about that a lot, especially me, but there's such a difference to when people actually experience it and they get their hands on it and they see how it works and they see how the game world is really changing in response to their own actions. So that's been great. And I think just our moment-to-moment gameplay is really fun. It's a very, very dynamic world, so constantly changing, constantly surprising. The wildlife's jumping in. It's not only the orcs and those enemies you're fighting against, you're also able to use your wraith powers to bend them to your will, force them to fight each other, grab the monsters and the wild creatures of Mordor. So it really is being able to kind of get deep behind enemy lines and manipulate chaos.
Sounds like it's a much darker take on Middle-earth than we might have seen with some of the earlier games.
I think it's certainly exploring not the sort of the polar black and white good guy bad guys of Middle-earth. This is, I think, more aligned with some of those really interesting characters who are in more of those shades of grey. So Boromir is an amazing hero. So he's somebody who wanted to take the Ring of Power, who thought the only way it was possible to take on the Dark Lord and win was to match his ruthlessness, to match his power. Saruman is another example. The only way to beat Sauron is to use his own super weapons against him. So even Galadriel herself, she was tempted, but she was obviously wise enough to know that if she had have taken the Ring of Power, she would have ended up as a Dark Queen rather than the Dark Lord. But that's a what if that comes up so much through Lord of the Rings that we thought it was really interesting to explore that.
So obviously, while you are able to create your own enemies through the Nemesis system, you are there's still quite a lot of Tolkien who's still coming through this time.
Yeah, the authenticity and the attention to detail and the canon, that's what's so amazing about Middle-earth. I mean, effectively, it's a real place. There's that much history and myth and detail that it's almost like making a historical game. You're setting this game in a real place. And I think that's why it was very, very important to us to tell an original story, because that's what makes the world of Middle-earth so rich and detailed. You can enjoy The Hobbit entirely on its own, and it's set within this world. So, or you can enjoy it as a sequel to the Lord of the Rings, and it's the same for Lord of the Rings. They work as standalone stories. They work as part of the larger tapestry. They work together, and we very much wanted to stay within canon, but to emulate that, to have a new hero, to have a new story, but also to have it very authentic and very connected to the canon and the established lore of Middle-earth.
You're next. You would do his bidding. You will do. Brave Walker! Enough of your games! Show yourself and I will kill you!
I wish you could.
And that's about it for this edition of Player Attack. Thanks for watching. Next week, we've got a preview of Borderlands, the pre-sequel, which is out real soon now. And for something a little bit different, a chat with Sega about Hatsune Miku Project Diva F2nd, which is headed to our shores in November. In the meantime, you can catch us on playerattack.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And if you've got something you want to say, send us an email, mailbox@playerattack.com, or just hop on our forums. Till next week, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this is Player Attack.